Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Paper Crafting Saturday. I'm Leslie Watkins. I hope everybody's enjoying their weekend so far. I wanted to show you some of the new color refresh colors. So last time I showed you these colors. These are what we call the new in colors, and I used these to paint with last time. There are 5 of them, and these 5 colors will remain in colors for 2 years. So they're going to begin in May of 2023, and they will be available until May of 2025. This was a big year for Stampin' Up! Because they also rolled out some new core colors. So what do I mean by core colors? In the new catalog, if you go to the back where all the supplies are, you'll find a color page, and it looks like this. Okay, and these are the families of colors. So we've got the neutrals, the regals, the subtles, the brights, and here are the new in colors, and here are the outgoing old colors. These they overlap. So these are the ones that go from 2022 through 2024. And then you've got some of your basics down here. Well, this year, something special happened. They did a color refresh on the main families of colors, and this only happens maybe every 3 to 5 years or so. And what they did was they took out some of the older colors and replaced them with something new, and I just wanted to show you what they look like. So you've got this pale yellow, and this is called Lemon Lolly. Okay, so that's Lemon Lolly. You've got this cool pink called Bubble Bath. You've got this beautiful bright blue called Azure Afternoon. This color, Lost Lagoon, is an old color that had retired some time ago, and they brought it back, and I think that's a really pretty color. Love that. And then in the neutrals, they introduced Pecan Pie, and this is the color I'm going to be using today. I love this color, and every time I look at it, I'm always struck by how close it is to the color of a pecan shell, nut shell. So I'm going to be using that today, and I'm going to be making my own decorative design on some cardstock. So the cardstock that I've chosen is Crumb Cake, and I've also got my white craft ink. I'm going to go ahead and open up my stamp case, and I'm going to add a couple of drops of the reinker to the lid. Whoa. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's plenty. That's a lot of ink. That's going to go for a very long time. Now I'm just going to check my settings, make sure you can see and hear me. So give me just a moment. And that looks good. And I see Kelly. Good morning, Kelly. How are you doing today? What are you up to? Are you in your craft room? For a stamp set, I'm using the Petal Park, and you've been watching me use this quite a bit because I've been using these flowers with the punch. But today I'm going to do something a little bit different, and I'm going to use these leaves. I'm not even sure if I've used this stamp so far. This may be the first time. So I'm going to need a bigger block for this stamp. there we go. All right, so this block is the E block, which is one of the larger blocks. And if you haven't used one of these blocks before, I just want to say they're really well made. They're very thick. They have a kind of an ergonomic groove in there so you can hold on to it really well. They're smooth, they feel good, they're heavy, and they come in a lot of different sizes. And what I would recommend if you're just starting out, you can get the entire collection of all the different sizes at a 10% discount. So that's a really great way to start your block collection. And I don't think you can ever have too many blocks. I am always looking for another block, so very handy to have on hand. Now, I'm not going to need the entire sheet. I'm just going to cut this. Let me think about this for a minute. I'm going to need a piece that measures, well, I'm going to start with a half sheet. So I cut that wrong. Let me try that again. Let me try that again. We need a 5.5. Okay, and what I want to end up with is a pocket, and so I'm going to score this a little bit differently than I normally would. I'm going to give myself 3/4 of an inch, I think, is plenty. So I'm just going to score this at 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to bring this over the score line to my 4 1/4 mark. Okay, which is right about there. Score it again. And then I'm going to cut the whole thing to 5 3/4. All right, so I've got something that looks like this. And then on the bottom, I am going to do just the same. And let's see, this is 5.5. I'm just going to, I'm going to measure. Let me just check this out. Yeah, that's not going to work. Okay, erase all that. I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm just working from an idea. I haven't done it yet, so I haven't figured out all the details. Let's start again. So I need a piece of cardstock that's going to measure about 6.5 by 5.5. So here's my 5.5. And here's my 6.5. That'll work. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to score on 3 sides at 1/2 inch. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so that's what it looks like. I'll give you the proper dimensions. It's 5.5 by 6.5, And then I have these score marks on 3 sides, so it looks like this. Okay, now with the pecan pie, I'm going to use these leaves so that they get up, the design gets up into the corner areas. I'm not worried about the middle because that's going to be cut out. This is going to be a window. And let's see how I can fit this one in. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill in these side places like so, like so, and maybe a little bit over here. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a pattern around the edges of the inside of this main section here. Hey Vicki, nice to see you. And Kelly says yes, she's working on her book. Oh, Kelly, that is exciting. I'm glad to hear it. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into my drops of ink on the lid here, and I'm using the blender pen. Now, the reason I'm not using my brush is because I'm working on cardstock, and the cardstock would not be able to accommodate the water. So when you use the blender pen, you're using a solution that dries very quickly, so it doesn't have time to damage the cardstock. And I'm just adding a little extra color around the edges. And I'll zoom you in so that you can see that a little bit better. Now I'm not sure how much of these areas are going to show, but I know that the corners will. So I'm going to give the corners a little extra attention. I'm just going to make my way around. It's kind of a gray day here today. So I don't know if it looks like it's going to rain. I don't know how much time I'm going to have to spend in the garden. But it's looking, the shad trees are blooming and they look absolutely gorgeous. and they're one of my favorites. They're also called Amelanchiers, and they have a beautiful, very delicate, very elegant display in the early spring of these gorgeous kind of silvery white flowers, and it's one of our native species, and it sets berries later on in the year. These beautiful little they look like blueberries. They're not as sweet as blueberries, but they are edible, and you can make a pie or something with them, but you would definitely want to add some sweetener to it. But the birds absolutely love them, and one of the things that I try to do here is to plant shrubs and trees and perennials that have some kind of value to wildlife. And the Amelanchiers are really an all-star performer. And when they do start to have those berries, even before they've had time to begin to ripen, the cedar waxwing birds come in droves. And it's funny because a lot of times they will discover the berries before I do, which is no surprise. And I've got two of these understory trees on either side of the entrance to my house, and I'll be going down the steps, and I'll hear a funny little sound, and I'll think, well, what the heck is this? Happens every year, no matter how many times it happens every year. I think, what is that funny sound? And then I realize it's dozens and dozens of these little birds in the Amelanchiers feasting on those blueberries. They're not blueberries, but the berries are blue that are on the tree. So they are in bloom right now, which is a really wonderful reminder that everything's about to blossom very soon. Okay, so all I've done here is to add a little bit of extra color, and I have to say that I am loving the color of this pecan pie. This is one of the new core colors, and I like it very much. And I'm just going to go back in a couple of places here and add a little extra. I want to have a nice range of value here. What do I mean by value? I mean lights and darks. So a value range is how light and how dark any particular color can get. There is our friend Otello. Everybody, Houdini's out. Everybody's out having a wonderful time, all set for the summer. But I had to bring Otello back in because he had a convulsion. I think he has epilepsy, and he's had that for some time. But it kind of comes and goes in spurts, and I noticed that he wasn't doing so well yesterday, so I got him back in, and hopefully he'll be able to go back outside again before too long. All right, so there's the beginning, and I'll just put a couple of little dots on these places. So I really like this design on this stamp, and it reminds me of the Amelanchiers because the flowers grow in these sort of little sprays that have a very fine quality, the way this little added decoration looks. And one more. Okay, now I'm going to get my white and same thing. I'm just going to pick up, except I've got some dust on there. Get the dust off of there. I think that's, it looks like cat hair. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick up a little bit of light areas on these leaves and the flowers. So this is a very, very quick and easy way to make a very pretty sort of a monochromatic design for a little background decoration. So the craft ink, the white craft ink, is actually opaque, and so what I'm doing is I'm using it as if it were gouache. And if you don't know what gouache is opaque watercolor. So traditional watercolor is transparent, but when you mix it with gouache, you're mixing your transparencies with your opacities. And so this craft ink, this white craft ink, can be used just like you would gouache. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of gold sparkle to this as well. Just to jazz it up a little bit. All right, okay, there is my border design pretty much done. I can go back and touch up any areas that I may have missed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my snips and I'm just going to cut these tabs at a slight angle. So what do I mean by that? If you cut the corners off, like so, go back in and make a little bit of an angle cut. Just like that. And that way, when these tabs are folded in, they're not going to be seen on the front side. Now I'm going to get my Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine. And here we go. Zoom you out. And I've got my Countryside, oh, you can't see that, can you? Let me move this out of the way for a minute. I've got the new Countryside Corners stamp set bundle with the dies. And actually, you know what? I think what I want to do is I want to try out one of these stamps too. So I'm going to get my great big block and I'm going to use, oh, this is interesting. I see, it's all one. Oh, let's see how this works. Interesting. Okay, so I didn't realize that this was all one big stamp. This is very interesting. So what you can do is you can select, if I can hold it, you can select the border that you like best and then cut on either side of it to get a frame, a thin frame. So that's a very nice feature. But I I need to have the design on the outside. Well, actually, you know what? Tell you what, I'm going to change my plans. Instead of using the biggest die, I'm going to use the second biggest so I can get this little border around the outside. So let's check that out, see how it works. I'm going to bring my stamp pad to the stamp this time because it's so large. Get that all inked up. And see if I can get this centered on here. Give that a good press. Okay, now I can get my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I'm going to place this die on here so that that decorative design, let me flip this over so I have better contact here. Actually, you know what? This may be a job for a post-it note. Let's see, where are my post-it notes? Oh, here they are. Get that lined up. All right. There we go. So now what I have is this beautiful little border design going around the edge of my window. And this I'm going to save because I need another one of this shape. So I'm going to go ahead, cut out my second one. I'm going to cover that up. I'm going to laminate these together. And actually, before I do, I think I want to put a little design on there as well. So let's get the leaves back. There we go. All right, I'm going to put this aside for the moment. I'm going to color this in just as I did the border design, but I'm going to do that in a different, after the video is over. For now, what I want to do is I just want to make sure that my scores are well burnished. I want to measure my inner dimensions here. So this is approximately 4 1/4 by 5, a little more than 5 1/2. I've got a piece of vellum. I'm going to cut that to 4. Oops, I've got ink on my hand. So 4 1/4 by 'Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my my double-sided tape. And I'm just going to apply that around the edges. There we go. My vellum in the behind the die cut, and then finally I'm going to use my tear and tape again for the tabs. A little bit extra there. Give that a good burnish. Sophia, you may be able to hear her in the background. She's making some very tiny meows. She's been by the window watching the chipmunk, and she really wants to go outside and see that chipmunk close up. I have a feeling that she's going to be quite the Hunter. All right, so there is my pocket. And now what I'm going to do is going to get out my Scrapbustin journal. And I want to put this on the inside back cover of the journal. So here it is. And I thought that the pecan pie ink would look really pretty with the colors on this page. So this is going to go on here like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the bottom lined up first. Actually, let me see where I want this to be. I think I want this to be a little bit lower. So I'm going to get the bottom lined up with the edge of the paper there. Give that a good rub. And then I'm just going to fold this down into place. There it is. Okay, so now I have a little window pocket that I can put a good sized tag in. And I think for my tag, I have this shape that was cut out from the window, but I think what I want to do is get that great big die and make a great big tag. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. I'm going to decorate it just as I did for the border here. And then what I'll do is I'll add a little bit of this beautiful ribbon as a pull at the top. And I'll show you what that looks like in the finished thumbnail. And I'm going to add a few touches of gold ink here and there just to give this a little bit more sparkle. So there it is. There's my vellum pocket that you can use as a like a library card in the back of your journal. And I did that using the new Countryside Corners bundle. So I hope that gives you some ideas for your journal. We're going to be having another Zoom once everybody gets caught up where we can share the designs that we've all come up with. So stay tuned for that. If you're not already on my mailing list, please go to dandelioncottagedesign.com and subscribe to notes from Dandelion Cottage, and I will let you know when that Zoom is going to be and how you can go ahead and sign up for it. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful and creative weekend, and I will see you next on Marvelous Monday. I think it's going to be a little bit later again this week because I have another commitment. I will let you know as it comes nearer what time I'll be going live, but I will go live at some point on Monday, so stay tuned for that. Stay well, be happy, stay creative, and I will see you next time.